It was a Friday morning that felt entirely indistinguishable from any other. The kind of routine, start to the day, that is so ordinary it usually fades from memory before noon. A drive to school, a quick chat with other parents, and a walk along the river with a dog that knew the path by heart. Yet in the span of just a few short minutes, amidst the quiet tasks of sending an email and listening to a work conference call, a vibrant life simply ceased to be visible, leaving behind a phone on a bench, a dog running back and forth, and a silence that would soon echo across the entire country. Welcome to this timeline reconstruction, where we're going to walk step by step through the events of January 27th, 2023, in the village of St. Michael's on Wyre in Lancashire, examining the disappearance of Nicola Bulley. Not through the lens of rumor or speculation, but by focusing strictly on the confirmed facts, the timestamps, and the sequence of movements that turned a peaceful riverside walk into one of the most confusing and heavily scrutinized cases in recent memory. To understand the gravity of what happened, we have to start with the absolute normality of that morning, because it is the lack of anything unusual that makes the subsequent events so difficult to reconcile. As Nicola, known to her family and friends as Nikki, began her day just like any working parent, preparing her two young daughters for school and organizing the logistics of the upcoming weekend. Reports and timeline data later released by the police confirm that at approximately 8:26 a.m., Nicola left her home. A detail that seems trivial but establishes the baseline of her routine. And she drove the short distance to the local primary school where she dropped off her children. A moment verified by witnesses who saw her engaging in brief, casual conversations with other parents in the schoolyard, appearing completely herself, grounded and present in the moment. Around 8:43 a.m., she was seen walking along the path by the River Wyre, a route she knew well and walked often, accompanied by her Springer Spaniel, Willow, and it is important to visualize this setting. A quiet, scenic path in a close-knit village community where faces are familiar and the rhythm of life is generally slow and predictable. As she walked, she was not disconnected from the world. In fact, she was actively managing her work responsibilities. And at 8:53 a.m., she sent an email to her boss, followed by a text message to a friend just minutes later, to arrange a play date for the children, actions that indicate a mind focused on the future, on plans, and on the mundane organization of daily life, showing no signs of distress or unplanned deviation. At 9:01 a.m., she logged into a work conference call on Microsoft Teams, a detail that became central to the public fascination with this case. Because it is something so many of us do, joining a meeting with the camera off and the microphone muted while multitasking, listening in while continuing with other parts of our day, and this digital footprint proves she was present and active at that exact moment. According to the timeline established by investigators, the last confirmed sighting of Nicola was at approximately 9:10 a.m., when a person who knew her saw her on the upper field walking with Willow. And this witness later stated clearly that there was nothing untoward or concerning about her demeanor. She was simply walking her dog on a gray but dry winter morning. This is where the timeline becomes incredibly tight and where the mystery that gripped the nation began to unfold. Because the phone, which was still connected to that work call, was found just over 20 minutes later, creating a vanishingly small window of time in which everything changed. At roughly 9:20 a.m., investigators believe the phone was moved to the bench where it was later discovered, based on location data. And by 9:30 a.m., the work conference call ended, but Nicola did not log off. leaving her user active on the screen, a silent observer to a meeting that had already finished. The first sign that the morning routine had fractured came around 9:33 a.m. when a walker found Willow, the dog, alone, agitated and running between the bench and the riverbank, and noticed the phone sitting on the bench, still logged into the call, along with a dog harness and a lead on the ground nearby. It is a haunting image, the stillness of the technology and the frantic energy of the dog contrasting sharply with the absence of the owner. And the passerby, realizing something was not right, eventually tied the dog up and began to make inquiries, assuming perhaps Nicola was nearby or had briefly stepped away. As the minutes turned into an hour, the concern began to ripple outward, moving from mild confusion to genuine alarm. And the school was contacted, followed by Nicola's partner, Paul, who rushed to the scene. And it was then that the police were notified and the official investigation began, marking the transition from a missing person inquiry to a major search operation. What made this case so particularly baffling to the public and to those watching from afar was the geography of the area, as the river path was not isolated wilderness but a well-used track, and the window of time between the last sighting and the discovery of the phone was so narrow, leaving very little room for a complex sequence of events or for a third party to intervene without being seen. In the days that followed, the Lancashire police launched an extensive search, deploying drones, helicopters, sniffer dogs, and specialist diving teams to scour the river and the surrounding fields, working under the initial hypothesis that Nicola had sadly fallen into the river, a theory that was met with significant skepticism from her family and friends, who felt it didn't align with her strong swimming ability and the specific nature of the riverbank. This divergence between the police's working theory and the family's intuition created a tension that played out in the media, fueling a massive amount of public interest and, unfortunately, a wave of online speculation that often drifted far from the established facts. It is important to remember that during this period, the family was living in a state of suspended animation, waiting for news while the world debated theories, and the impact of this intense scrutiny cannot be overstated, as detectives later noted that the sheer volume of misinformation and amateur sleuthing actually hindered the investigation and placed an immense burden on the local community. The search continued for 3 agonizing weeks, expanding all the way to the mouth of the river and into Morecambe Bay, with independent search experts brought in to assist. Yet for a long time, the river yielded no answers, deepening the mystery and leading many to question if she had ever entered the water at all. This period of uncertainty was defined by the yellow ribbons tied to bridges and trees in the village, symbols of hope and a community waiting for a return, while police continued to analyze dashcam footage, doorbell cameras, and witness statements to close every possible loop, eventually concluding that there was no evidence of third-party involvement. The resolution to the disappearance came tragically on February 19th, when a body was discovered in the river, about a mile downstream from where Nicola was last seen. A heartbreaking conclusion that confirmed the police's initial hypothesis, but did little to dull the shock and grief felt by those who loved her. The subsequent inquest and coroner's report provided the official context, recording the death as accidental drowning, and noting that the shock of the cold water likely incapacitated her instantly, a physiological reaction that can happen to anyone regardless of swimming ability, offering a factual, if devastating, explanation for the silence of that morning. It serves as a somber reminder of the fragility of our daily routines, how quickly the ordinary can shift, and how a combination of unfortunate circumstances can lead to such a permanent loss, without the need for the darker theories that often fill the void of the unknown. Looking back at the timeline now, with the benefit of hindsight, we can see that the mystery was not one of foul play or elaborate disappearance, but of a tragic accident that happened in a quiet moment, unseen by the world, but felt deeply by a family forever changed. It leaves us with a sense of profound empathy for a woman who was simply going about her day, planning for the future and caring for her family, only to have that future cut short in an instant. Thank you for joining me as we walked through this timeline with care and respect. And if this reconstruction helped you understand the sequence of events more clearly, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe as we continue to explore these stories with the dignity they deserve. Thank you for watching.